Managing Human Resource Systems, Management 1100, Chapter 11. My name is Tony Knight, and I'd like to take the time to share with you the managing of human resource systems. Human resource management, or the process of finding, developing, and keeping the right people to form a qualified workforce, is one of the most difficult and important of all management tasks. This chapter is organized around the three parts of the human resource management process: attracting, developing, and keeping a qualified workforce. This chapter was most interesting to me because my goal and wish is to work in human resources. This chapter walks us through the steps of the human resource management system process. We can explore how companies use recruiting and selection techniques to attract and hire qualified employees to fulfill human resource needs. The chapter discusses how training and performance appraisal can develop the knowledge, skills, and abilities of the workforce. The chapter concludes with a review of compensations and employee separation. That is, how companies can keep their best workers through effective compensation practices and how they can manage the separation process when employees leave the organization. Human resource management is subject to numerous major federal employment laws and subject to review by federal agencies. In general, these laws indicate that sex, age, religion, color, national origin, race, disability, and pregnancy may not be considered in employment decisions unless these factors reasonably qualify as bona fide occupational qualifications. These are strictly monitored, again, by the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. Two important criteria to consider is disparate treatment, intentional discrimination, that occurs when people are purposely not given the same hiring, promotion, or membership opportunities because of their race, color, sex, age, ethnic group, national origin, or religious beliefs. Adverse impact is unintentional discrimination. That occurs when members of a particular race, sex, or ethnic group are unintentionally harmed or disadvantaged because they are hired, promoted, or trained at substantially lower rates than others. Two kinds of sexual harassment is quid pro quo sexual harassment, which is a form of sexual harassment in which employment outcomes such as hiring, promotion, or simply keeping one's job depend on whether an individual submits to sexual harassment. Hostile work environment is a form of sexual harassment in which unwelcome and demeaning sexually related behavior creates an intimidating and offensive work environment. Here is a summary of the major federal employment laws and the websites you can look into for more definition. But here are a summary of the definitions and the years the acts became laws. The human resource management process is attracting qualified employees by recruiting and selection, developing qualified employees by training and performing performance appraisals, and keeping qualified employees with compensation and then employee separation. Recruiting is the process of developing a pool of qualified job applicants by job analysis, which is a purposeful, systematic process for collecting information on the important work-related aspects of a job. Then the job description is a written description of the basic tasks, duties, and responsibilities required of an employee holding a particular job. And then the specifications of the job, which is a written summary of the qualifications needed to successfully perform a particular job. Then, of course, recruiting internally or externally. Internally, of course, is qualified job applicants from inside the company, and external recruiting involves finding qualified job applicants from outside the company. Selection is the process of gathering information about job applicants to decide who should be offered a job. You have accurate selection procedures. They must be valid, legally defendable, improve organizational performance. And application forms and resumes, of course, are the most common selection devices, and managers should always check references and conduct background checks. Without this information, other employers are at risk of negligent hiring lawsuits. You have selection tests generally do the best job of predicting applicants' future job performance. There's a specific ability test measure that extends an applicant possesses the particular kind of ability needed to do the job. Cognitive ability tests that measure the extent to which applicants have abilities in perceptual speed, verbal comprehension, numerical aptitude, general reasoning, and spatial aptitude. Biographical data, extensive surveys that ask applicants questions about their personal backgrounds and life experiences. You have work sample tests that require applicants to perform tasks that are actually done on the job. And assessment centers, a series of managerial simulations graded by trained observers that are used to determine applicants' capability for managerial work. There are 3 kinds of job interviews. The unstructured interviews is where interviewers are free to ask the applicants anything they want. Structured interviews, in which all applicants are asked the same set of standardized questions, usually including situational, behavioral, background, and job knowledge questions. And the semi-structured interviews lie between structured and unstructured. A major part of the semi-structured interview, perhaps as much as 80%, is based on structured questions that sometimes is set aside for unstructured interviewing to allow the interviewer to probe into ambiguous or missing information uncovered during the structured portion of the interview. Training objectives and methods. You must choose the best method. In order to choose the best method, you consider a number of factors, such as the number of people to be trained, the cost of training, the objectives of the training, impart information and knowledge. You can use films and videos, lectures, planned readings, develop analytical and problem-solving skills by doing case studies, coaching and mentoring, and group discussions. Practice, learn, or change job behaviors by on-the-job training, role-playing, simulations and games, and vestibule training. Impart information and knowledge, develop analytical and problem-solving skills, and practice, learn, or change job behaviors, as well as computer-based learning. The keys of successful performance appraisals include accurately measuring job performance, effectively sharing performance feedback with employees, develop good performance appraisal skills, train raters how to accurately evaluate performance. This is very important. Impress upon managers the value of providing feedback in a clear, consistent, and fair manner. Setting goals and monitoring progress toward those goals. Compensation and employee separation. There are 3 basic kinds of compensation decisions. It's pay level, pay variability, and pay structure. Employee separation is the loss of an employee, which can be voluntarily or involuntarily. Downsizing. Companies use downsizing and early retirement incentive programs to reduce the number of employees in the organization and lower costs. Companies generally try to keep the rate of employee turnover low to reduce costs associated with finding and developing new employees. The functional turnover, on the other hand, can be good for organizations. Early retirement incentive programs is a compensation system that awards employees shares of company stock in addition to their regular compensation. Employee turnover is loss of employees who voluntarily choose to leave the company. Functional turnover is the loss of poor performing employees who voluntarily choose to leave a company. And dysfunctional turnover is the loss of high performing employees who voluntarily choose to leave a company. Thank you for your time. Tony Knight.